Hey, Derek, guess what?
Hit me with it.
We just got a promotion with Audible.
Audible, fantastic. I love Audible.
Do you know what the cool thing about this deal is?
What's that?
If our listeners go to audibletrial.com/supercinemapod, they get a free trial with Audible. And do you know what they get with that?
What do they get with that? Tell me.
They get one free audiobook of their choice, and they get 2 free Audible originals, which is special content that Audible makes available free for all its subscribers.
Are you kidding me? That deal is so good, I may go myself and sign them.
Do you think they let you keep the books after you're done?
No, you're not going to tell me they let you keep the books after you're done.
Yes. In fact, you can go sign up for a trial, and you can cancel before the trial ends, and you get to keep the books you've already downloaded.
Well, I don't see how you can beat that with a stick.
Exactly, yeah. And you can, lots of great books, especially for fans of this show. You can listen to Super Gods by Grant Morrison, which is all about like how the superhero comics have changed and evolved over time. Or you can check out Marvel Comics, The Untold Story.
Which is a terrific book. I have that both in hardcover, and I listen to that on Audible myself in my car while traveling back and forth.
And there's also another similar book that's called Slugfest, which is about like the wars between Marvel and DC Comics.
Oh, okay.
So that's another one you got to check out too. So yeah, head on over to audibletrial.com/supercinemapod and start your free trial right now. You get 1 free audiobook and 2 free Audible originals, and you can keep them even if you cancel before it's over.
We are not enough. Each of us in our own way is held back, and I promise you, Steppenwolf is not out there talking about ethics. He's trying to burn down the world. The way we're gonna stop him is by using his power, this power, against him.
I agree. I don't like the idea of reintegrating with the mother box. But I was running the numbers while you were being an asshole, and there is a high probability that we can bring him back.
Right. But we mean bring him back in like a yay, he's back way, not in like a Pet Cemetery scenario.
You lose something when you die. Even Superman. Maybe not his mind. Maybe his soul.
I'll have a contingency plan for that.
If he wakes up and you're the first thing he sees, you'll need one.
Welcome to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. I am half of your host, Perry Constantine.
And as always, I am the other half, Derek Ferguson.
How you doing, Derek?
I am doing quite well, thank you. Had an appointment with the eye doctor today.
How'd it go?
Oh, very well. He checked me out. It was in relation to those other health issues I was telling you about.
Mm-hmm.
He checked out my eyes, and he said, yeah, other than the fact that you're blind as a bat, he said there's nothing wrong with, yeah, I've got something like 60/200 vision, something like that. But he said, your eyes are fine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm doing pretty good. You know what? I actually, because we got a new a router for our house here for our internet, and so we were able to. Yeah, so finally I could set up my VPN so that it works on different devices for different things. So, which means I can actually use Amazon Prime Japan, which I've been subscribed to for like 2 years, but I've never been able to watch anything on there.
Oh.
And so I started watching The Boys, and I just finished the first season not too long ago. I'm not sure. Have you seen it yet?
No, I have not.
It is really good. Like, I've read some of the books. But it is, yeah, it's really, really solid work. I'm really enjoying it. I'm just about to start season 2 actually. And then and also The Mandalorian's back, so I'm all caught up on that. Watched the first 2 episodes so far.
Yeah, I'm just waiting because I think that this Friday is going to be like the 3rd episode of the 2nd season. I'm just waiting, I have patience. I can do that. I'm waiting until the whole thing is up there, and then I'm just going to binge watch.
Yeah, I thought about waiting too, but then I checked out Disney Plus, and I'm like, I'm going to watch it. But yeah, it's Like first 2 episodes so far, really, really strong. And apparently Baby Yoda's got a bit of a murderous streak in him.
Apparently so, from what I hear this last episode,
Yeah.
like most babies, he'll put anything in his mouth.
So like, yeah, he's working on this, I mean, it's not that spoilery, but he's on this mission where he's got to protect this like frog woman or something, and she's trying to transport her eggs, which are like the last of her family's line. Baby Yoda like eats like 2 or 3 of them.
Good for him.
I was watching him like eat this, and there's another scene where because he gets into them during like the ship has this problem. Mando comes down, he sees Yoda standing over eating one of the eggs, and then Mando's like, "How many of those did you eat?" And then Yoda just kind of like looks around.
Yeah, like who, me? What? It still amazes me that here it was, this show comes on Disney Plus, and everybody just like kind of, yeah, well, Disney, they just tried to, and people weren't expecting much of it because, of course, The Rise of Skywalker was coming out the same month that The Mandalorian, made its big debut. And as it turns out, that everybody hated The Rise of Skywalker and loved The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
That turned out to be the big Star Wars event of the year.
Easily. I mean, there's no question about it for me. I mean, Mandalorian is easily like one of the best things that has come out of Star Wars pretty much since probably, I don't know, in a very long time. Like it's easily like the best thing of it. I mean, I would watch The Mandalorian over like the original Star Wars.
Really?
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, Empire is still like the gold standard, but I think Mandalorian is way up there because it does what Star Wars should have been doing all this time, right? You've got this whole big universe, this whole mythology built up around it, but you just keep focusing on this one bloodline.
Yeah. That's kind of, The Mandalorian is exactly what I think Star Wars started out to be a Western / samurai movie in space.
Yes.
That's what it was. And it kind of got away from that. Like you said, it got caught up in the whole thing with the Skywalkers and everything like that, which I always say, the whole universe would have been better off if they had never heard of the Skywalker family, because all they did is just come in and just fuck up everything.
Yeah.
Frankly. They do.
And it's all Qui-Gon's fault. Like if he did nothing, that kid would have stayed there on Tatooine and died there.
Yeah. I mean, Skywalkers do nothing but screw up everything. But yeah, like The Mandalorian actually takes advantage, like you said, of this whole universe. And it goes back to that spaghetti Western vibe.
Yes, yeah.
That I think works very well for this thing. I mean, because let's face it, this is Lone Wolf and Cub.
It is.
They made, and know what? I'm glad they make no secret about it. I mean, I don't like it when creators, they try to be coy and say, well, no, it's not really that because we're brilliant. No, they were right in front of it. Yeah, this is Lone Wolf and Cub in outer space.
In fact, totally. In fact, I wasn't really that interested in The Mandalorian at first, right? Because I'm not a big Star Wars guy. Like I like the movies, but like Boba Fett, I never really got the appeal. So I didn't really care too much about someone who looks like Boba Fett. And so I wasn't too excited about it. But then when everyone started talking about it and they started talking about how it's basically Lone Wolf and Cub in space, I'm like, oh, yeah. Now I got to see this.
Bingo. See, there you go. It got you somebody who has no interest, no real, commitment to Star Wars. Unlike me, like who, like I saw the original Star Wars back in 1977 when it opened. So I've been a Star Wars, and I was in my senior year of high school. So I've been a Star Wars fan most of my life. So, I have like a commitment to it. But somebody like you who don't, see, and they got you into it by saying, oh yeah, well, it's Lone Wolf and Cub in outer space. And you said, what?
Yeah. So yeah, that really made me want to see it, and then I got hooked after that. After that, I was definitely all in on that. So got a little bit of news today. Apparently, it looks like there's gonna be a Martian Manhunter in Snyder's Justice League.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, they hasn't said much, but it's been mentioned before, and then he was doing a live stream video with the Nerd Queens, and he showed a design on his phone. So yeah, it looks like he didn't really say anything else. He just said this is still just a drawing. But yeah, so this, because apparently last year Snyder said that Martian Manhunter was actually in Man of Steel. He was actually the general that was played by Henry Lennox.
Yeah.
So and so it looks like this was his plan, or I don't know if it was his plan all along, but now he's got this 4 hours to play with. So now he's going to, reveal that. I'm not sure what kind of role he'll play in the movie or anything like that. All we have is the design, and, assume that Lennox is going to be playing John Jones. Which to me, and, we're talking about Justice League today, so we'll get into this more when we talk about the movie, because I've always been, like, for me, Martian Manhunter is Mr. Justice League. Right. I mean, he's like the key character in that lineup. He's been, up until recently, he's been in every single lineup of the team.
Right. Yeah.
And he's always been one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, he's always been, to me, he's like, okay, when people talk about Captain America, they always say, okay, well, it's like, he's the Avengers. He's the heart and soul of the Avengers. He's Mr. Avengers. And I say, well, no, for me, it's Hawkeye.
Mm-hmm.
I feel kind of the same way about Martian Manhunter. When you talk about the Justice League, I think of Martian Manhunter as being the heart and soul of the Justice League. Because as you accurately point out, he's been in virtually every incarnation of the team.
Yeah.
And there's no other member of the team that can say that. I think it was when Kevin Maguire was drawing it, and he was leading the team.
Yeah. He's led the team on a few different occasions, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always thought it was weird when I first started, because I first came in with Morrison's run. That was my first real introduction to the Justice League, and I couldn't understand why the Martian Manhunter was there. Right, because I'm like, oh, you got all these, because I didn't know anything about the history. I'm like, well, you got all the other characters. They're DC's big six solo heroes. They've all got their own titles and all that. And then you got Martian Manhunter, who's never been able to really sustain a title for any length of time. So it didn't make much sense to me. And then after I started reading it, I'm like, oh, I get it now. And so it always pissed me off when they did the New 52 relaunch, and then the Justice League movie, and they took Martian Manhunter out and they replaced him with Cyborg. Because to me, it's just not the Justice League if you don't have Martian Manhunter now.
Yeah, Martian Man, and yeah, I understand why they put Cyborg in there, but yeah, I grew up with the Martian Manhunter always being, everybody else came and went as they, please, but the Martian Manhunter was always there.
Yeah.
He was always a mainstay, and I always saw him as being the guy that everybody on the team went. Even Batman, they went to him when they needed some advice,
right?
Or guidance or wisdom, or whatever. That was the guy that everybody went to. He was like the grandfather of the team.
Yeah. There are a few other things that have been not a whole lot of news, just with everything in the middle of all this, the pandemic stuff, nobody's really, and with all the craziness going on with the elections and all that stuff, nobody's really talking a whole lot. But but it looks like Peacemaker is going to, the spinoff from, or I think it's going to be a prequel with John Cena playing Peacemaker in HBO Max. They've just added Chris Conrad is going to be playing Vigilante. And so he's going to be appearing in the show as well. So they're going to have one.
So this is a prequel.
I believe it's a prequel. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because what my theory was? My theory was I would say, this is all just an elaborate hoax to cover up the fact that he's going to die.
Oh, I see.
Because I figure, yeah, in the movie, so that we would all see it and say, oh, well, they're gonna give him his own series, but then he's not gonna get killed in the movie. Then we go to the movie and see it, and we see him get, eaten by a bionic shark or something like that. We say, oh shit, I thought he was gonna get his own show. Okay.
No, yeah. It says, well, details about Peacemaker are being kept under wraps. The series will explore the origins of the character.
Oh, okay. So he can still get killed.
Okay, I think they're probably. You know what? Here's what I would do, and I would have done it. First, I would have this release this prequel series, right? And then I would have put the prequel out first, and then depending on how people respond to it, like if they like it, if they don't like it, then you have two scenes in the Suicide Squad movie. You've got one where Peacemaker dies, one where he lives. And if the series does well, then you keep him alive and you continue the series off from the modern day then. And if it doesn't do so well, if it's not that response isn't that great, then you kill him off in the movie. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. See what else. So also about the Flash movie, Brandon Routh was asked that if he would come back as Superman again in the Flashpoint movie. And he was doing an interview with the Geek House show, and he's like, well, it's always a possibility. And he said, they're bringing back Michael Keaton and some other people from past DC projects. So he's on board to play Superman again. So that's, if you're listening, if Warner Brothers is looking at this and they don't think, well, yeah, let's put Brandon Routh as Superman in the movie. If they don't do that, I don't know what's wrong with them.
You know what? I think I don't think that they don't have a problem doing it. I think it's himself, Henry Cavill. I don't think he wants to commit himself completely to doing any projects as far as Superman goes, because I do believe he's going to hold out for James Bond.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. So bring in Brandon Routh for the Flashpoint then.
Yeah. What's that guy's name? Not Brandon Routh. The other guy.
Oh, Tyler Hoechlin.
No, Henry Cavill. That's what I'm thinking about.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the one from the TV show.
That's what's his name? Tyler
Hoechlin. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
In fact, there's a bit of news of him too. They teased there's a set photo of him in Superman and Lois, and it looks like he's got a slightly altered costume. It's just a really blurry set photo, but it looks kind of like the it looks kind of like the New 52 costume with the red belt and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that looks like what they're going with for this one. And another piece of news, this is the last thing really to talk. Well, two other things. First, I don't know why they did this, but this movie that Ryan Reynolds is doing called Free Guy, right?
Yeah. I saw the trailer for it, and I said, oh shit, I got to see this.
That looks so much fun.
Yeah, it sure does.
It's been delayed indefinitely.
Oh, give me a break.
I know. Oh God, I'm just so annoyed with this stuff, and because it's already been delayed twice, and now it's just they don't know when they're going to. I'm just just put it on VOD.
Yeah, I mean, really. I mean, seriously. Yeah. Just get, just sell it to Netflix or, like you said, VOD or Amazon Prime or something, and get it over with. I'm waiting. I'm surprised they haven't had whatchamacallit on there yet, because I'm actually want to see the damn thing now. What is it? The Mutants?
New Mutants. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually want to see it. They should just put all of this stuff on. Like I said, and I've been saying, they should either do one or two things. Either just release this stuff to some streaming platform, or just hold it for next year.
Yeah,
period. That's it. And just stop, jerking us around with multiple dates. Well, it's going to come out next month. Well, no, it's not going to come out next month. Well, it's going to come out the month. No, it's going to come out at Christmas. No, listen, I don't care what you do. Just make a decision and stick with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Wonder Woman 84, another one that's been, pushed around a lot, which leaves... Forgive me, I got to make the bad joke.
Okay.
We're all waiting for Godot.
Good one.
I thought of that last week, and I'm I got to remember to say that on the show.
Absolutely. Listen, hey, you know what? How often would you get to use that?
Oh, well, you know what? I'm going to be, trust me, I'm in bad joke training for when my kid's born.
Oh, absolutely. Listen. Okay, so Wonder Woman 84, that's still set for Christmas.
I believe so, but like we talked about last week, that who knows? Because even like the head of Warner Brothers is like, well, we hope.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what? I can understand. You know what? I'm not totally insensitive to the movie theaters, even though they got more money than God.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not totally insensitive, and they want people to go to the theater and see it on the big screen and whatever. But I don't know. The thing is that at this point, we still do not know when it's going to be safe to go back to movie theaters. We really don't. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. We don't. There was an announcement yesterday that Pfizer, they said they had a vaccine that was 90% accurate. But then there were other stories that were coming out that they were saying they did not know the potency of this vaccine.
Right. Like so far, they've only confirmed that it's effective for like up to 7 days. So that's
right. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, so what? So now I got to go back to my doctor every 7 days and get a shot.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So we still do not know. We don't. And I don't know. Movie theaters, I understand the studios want to get the maximum return on their investment, but sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and say, well, you know what? Because they threw in the towel with what is it? That movie by Christopher Nolan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Tenet. They say, okay. Well,
they just finally decided to release it.
Yeah. They just said, okay, we're going to push out the Blu-ray and put it on VOD and, just call it a day.
Yeah. And so anyway, one more thing. I read a little bit of news on WandaVision, and apparently the first episode leans heavily into the sitcom vibe. Like they even filmed it in front of a studio audience.
Dick Van Dyke was kind of a consultant on how they did sitcoms back.
Really? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I read a story about that today. They said, they was asking Dick Van Dyke, okay, well, how did you do this? And how did you shoot this? And how do we do this? And how do we do that? Yeah. But I heard that too, that they did the whole 50. Yeah, they had a whole studio audience and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm so excited for that. That looks like it's going to be so much fun.
Paul Bettany said that, listen, he said, who knew I was so good at situation comedies? He said, I may have another career.
Oh, I believe it. I mean, Paul Bettany had this kind of like weird, quirky kind of like his humor in Civil War was really good, right? Like when he walks through the wall and he's like kind of like, but I just, the door was open. Like I could definitely see him doing really well in the sitcom setting.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that don't excite me anymore, but WandaVision, I'm excited for that. I really want to see what they're going to do with that.
Yeah, same here. Okay, so now the elephant in the room, the movie that we've been haven't talked about yet, but we've been kind of dancing around for a while, and I figured let's get it out of the way, and that's Justice League.
Justice League is probably the one movie that we haven't reviewed as of yet, but we've talked about the most.
Yes, I think that's definitely true.
We've talked about it and danced about damn near every episode we've done, especially when we're talking about DC movies.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't actually talked about. We haven't actually devoted an episode to it yet. So yeah, you're right.
I mean, because this movie had just like such a clusterfuck of an origin story, right? Because they did Man of Steel. Man of Steel did really well. And by that point, like Man of Steel came out in 2013, I think it was?
Somewhere thereabouts.
Yeah. So it came out, I remember, because it was the same summer as Iron Man 3 and the Wolverine. And I do remember because that summer, my expectation was that Iron Man 3 was going to be my favorite movie of the summer. Man of Steel was going to be a close second, and the Wolverine was going to be a distant third. And it ended up being almost a complete inversion of that list in reality. The Wolverine was far and away the best movie I saw that summer.
Okay.
And then I go back and forth over which I hate more, Man of Steel or Iron Man 3.
Oh God. Would you say, and I don't know, I've had this discussion with some other people. Would you say that Justice League is by far the most controversial superhero movie to date?
I think so. I was wondering about that myself. Yeah, I think so. It's, I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, because we're still talking.
No, I was gonna say maybe Batman v Superman, but now I think about it, like almost everybody hates Batman v Superman. Right. Like the only people who don't hate it are the Snyder fans.
Yeah, everybody hates it. And I mean, this is a movie that we're still talking about and is in line for what really I call, they're giving the whole damn thing a facelift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And representing it as what, like a 4-hour miniseries now on HBO Max. It's going to be they're reshooting scenes. They're doing all this stuff. There's all the contention, behind the scenes with them bringing in another director to finish the movie and stuff like that. I mean, this is a movie that I honestly can't think of another movie offhand that has been as polarizing in recent years as Justice League.
Yeah, I think you're right on that, because Justice League, it's a movie that didn't please anybody, really. Like, it was like, even people who hated Batman v Superman, like me, it's like, well, Justice League is a definite improvement over that, but it still got a lot of problems with it. And then, obviously the Snyder fans all hated it because Snyder got left production. So yeah, I think you're proud, and it's generated all this controversy since after. So yeah, I think you're right. I think I'll go along with that. But yeah, I mean, and so it came after Man of Steel did well, and at this point, right, Marvel's already become a juggernaut because this is post Avengers now, and the DC's like, well, we got to catch up.
Yeah,
so they rush ahead, Batman v Superman, and they put like all the Justice League characters in that, and then we get and then like right after that, we're gonna get like a Justice League trilogy. And then after Batman v Superman tanked, it became like, oh no, it's not gonna be a trilogy. It's gonna be parts 1 and 2. And then that downgraded again. It's like, oh, it's just gonna be one movie. And oh yeah, now Zack Snyder can't do it anymore. So, and it was just a case of like trying to run before you could walk.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, because as I've said before in other episodes, the problem with Warner Brothers DC has always been that they've been trying to play catch up.
Mm-hmm.
They came out of the gate late. They didn't hear the bell. And by the time they realized what a financial juggernaut superhero movies were, thanks to the MCU, they just felt like they just had to like do anything they could to try to chase, especially when Avengers made $1 billion in what, like 2 weeks. The suits at Warner Brothers went crazy. They said, okay, well, we got to get us some of that money. And mainly that's what Justice League is not. Okay, first of all, I should say to y'all folks out there, if you didn't like me before, you're not going to like me now, because I'm not going to trash this movie. And let me say something for a lot of y'all out there, hypocrites, because y'all profess to hate this movie so much, but there's some of y'all that have the Blu-ray and the DVD, and you've seen it multiple times. I know myself, people that they profess to hate this movie so much. I said, well, how many times have you seen it? Oh, about 20 times. Why would you watch something that many times that you say that you hate? Okay, so there's a lot of hypocrisy involved in this movie. So, folks,
well, I mean, you got that. There's a lot of hypocrisy with superhero fans in general, I've noticed. Like, I mean, because you and I know people who, and I'll confess, I was guilty of this too. People who were, when it was just comic books, there were people who would continue buying the comic book even if they hated what was being done in the pages.
Yeah.
And that's just like kind of a carryover from that, I see it as.
If for no other reason that they could bitch, moan, and whine about how much they hated it.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I'm not going to waste anybody's time. So if y'all decide y'all want to, go listen to another podcast, I want to tell you right now, don't hate the movie. There's a lot of it I don't like.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there's a lot of it I do like. It is not a totally worthless movie. More than anything else, when I watch, and like I said, I watched it today. And usually when I watch it, I'm sitting there and I'm just saying, oh, damn, if they had just did this, or if they had done, or if they took a little bit more time with that, or if they had tweaked this and everything like that. There are elements of a great superhero movie in this. This could have been the Avengers.
It could have been, yeah.
If they had taken, as the song says, if they had taken their time and did it right.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of good. Even with Cavill's stupid CGI lip, like he plays a much better Superman in this movie.
Absolutely.
Like after he comes back, like the scene when he's with Lois and and she's like, "Oh, you smell good." And he just kind of like quips, "Did I not before?"
Yeah.
And then
there's a genuine warmth and humanity to his Superman and Clark Kent in this movie that we don't get in Man of Steel or Superman versus
Batman v Superman.
Whatever. Yeah, Batman. Yeah. There's a genuine warmth in this character. And I'm glad that you pointed out that scene with Lois Lane, because to me, that's one of the major strengths of this movie, in that we have so many great conversations between the characters, all throughout the movie. The first one is when Aquaman and Bruce Wayne are discussing crime fighting techniques.
Yes, yeah.
He's, "Oh, so you mean you really dress up like a bat?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, I did it for 20 years and everything like that." And I said, "Well, of course, what else would superheroes talk about?" And so that there's the scene. My favorite scene in the movie is when it's Bruce Wayne and Alfred. They're in the plane and they're going around the country, trying to, like assemble a team and everything like that. And they sit down and Alfred says to him, "One misses the days when all you had to worry about was exploded and
wind up penguins." Yeah.
And I don't know. To me, that just tickles the hell out of me, because when he said that, I briefly saw Michael Keaton and Michael Gow.
They've got a lot of that same dynamic. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
Next to, I mean, Jeremy Irons they've had really good luck casting Alfreds. I'll say that.
Oh yeah. They may not have got it right with Bruce Wayne all the time, but they've got it right with Alfred
every single time. Like you have
every single time. Jeremy Irons brings such a British drollness to the whole relationship between, and never lets us forget that Alfred is the one person that could talk shit to Bruce and get away with it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I do like his line about shall I fly over and pass her a note? Will you be Bruce's teammate? Check yes or no.
Like I said, such great care. When there's Bruce and Diana, they're by the lake, and they're walking, and she's telling him the history of these mother boxes and everything like that. And they're just walking and talking. There's a lot of scenes in here, a lot of great scenes where it's just two characters. They take a moment out of the action to just sit and just have a conversation. And you don't see that in a lot of superhero movies.
No, and it's
characters just having a conversation.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure those scenes were mostly added by Whedon, because that's not really Snyder's forte.
Yeah.
But and you know what? That's another point too. Is just the cast in this movie it's a really well cast movie. I mean, almost all the Justice League is really well represented by their actors, right? I mean, you got Ben Affleck has really grown into his own as Batman here, and Bruce Wayne, right? He's a much more, because in BVS, he was much more broken down, right? He was much more Frank Miller Batman. This felt more like, Denny O'Neil Batman.
Yeah. And let me point out something for a lot of people that criticize Ben Affleck as Batman. Watch this movie again. This is the first Batman movie where we really see Batman's capability as a thinker and strategic planner. He's not just, pounding people, pounding the piss out of people or overcoming them through superior firepower. He's actually making plans, and he's strategizing, and, he's just acting more on a intellectual level than any other Batman I think I've seen since Michael Keaton.
Yes, definitely.
You know.
And that's good. That's important in this movie more than anything, because you got to have a reason for Batman to be there among all these like gods.
Bingo. Again, I mean, he's up here fighting, he's up here fighting parademons and monsters and Steppenwolf and everything like that, and he is so clearly, out of his league. So there's got to be a reason why Batman is there.
Yes.
And that's the reason, because he's the thinker.
Yeah. And just like his interactions with all the cast, it works really well. Like, I love when he's with Arthur in the Batcave and he's saying, "Can you put out, like a feeler?" And then Arthur's looking at him, kind of like giving him like this side eye. And then Bruce like, wait, you do really talk to fish, don't you?
Yeah. See, again, another great moment.
Yeah.
You really do talk to fish. And yeah, like you said, Arthur's just looking at him like, dude, get the fuck away from me.
And then Arthur has that line, the water mostly does the talking, which I'm betting Arthur just said because he was pissed off that people keep asking him that question.
Yeah.
Because the first time I saw that, I'm just like, that line doesn't really make any sense. The water does the talking.
Yeah.
But now
It's
I'm watching it again.
to.
And after watching Aquaman and everything, I'm convinced that Arthur just said that because he's sick of people asking him if he could talk to fish.
Right. And know something? Okay, that's a good point that you make. A lot more of how Aquaman works and how he thinks and everything like that. Actually, when you go back and watch this movie after watching Aquaman, a lot of what he says and what he does makes a lot more sense in this movie. And it's like you should have watched that. Okay. It's almost like they should have made Aquaman first.
I was thinking the same thing. Like rewatching it, it's like it almost works better if Aquaman came first.
Yeah.
Or at least parts of Aquaman.
Which in fact is how I tend to, when I usually have my home marathon of watching superhero movies, I do tend to save Justice League for last. And I watch Aquaman and Wonder Woman, and I watch all of those, Batman versus, I watch all of that before I watch, Justice League.
And then we also have and even though I don't really like him in this movie, I did like the conversations that Bruce has with Barry, right? Like Ezra Miller is totally miscast in this movie. He's the one person who just doesn't fit at all.
Okay. See, I hesitate to use the word annoying when describing his character, because I'm the guy who likes Kate Capshaw in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and everybody hates her because they say she's annoying. But here's what I think. If they had just called Ezra Miller Bart Allen, because that's who he's playing, really. He's Impulse. He's not Barry Allen.
He's not even really Bart Allen. He's like this weird mix of like Bart and Wally, I feel like.
Yeah, I think I could have took him a lot better if he had been some other Allen.
Yeah,
because he's definitely not the Barry Allen he's not even the Barry Allen from the TV show.
No. He's just this, I don't know what they were thinking when they wrote his character.
He's this hyperspastic, insecure, I don't know.
You know what? And Stephen Amell was right. They should have just cast Grant Gustin.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's exactly what I would have just did. Just, got him and just stuck him in there.
Yeah. Because
but you know what? These studios make me so sick with their little petty rivalries between the movie divisions and their TV divisions, and their strict policy of keeping them separate and stuff like that. It's so.
I'm not sure if you remember, but back when they were doing the Justice League animated series, like they had a Bat embargo where like Justice League, they could use Batman, but they couldn't use any of his villains or any of the other supporting cast members. They couldn't have like Nightwing. They couldn't have Robin, Batgirl. They were able to use a few of the villains early on, but then afterwards they couldn't use like Joker or Harley Quinn or Ra's al Ghul or anything like that.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah. They had a huge, and that's also why, like for a long time, um, Smallville had wanted to do have Bruce Wayne appear, and they were never able to do it because of Warner Brothers. They're like, no, 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 no. Batman is being saved for the movies. You can't use him on TV.
Hmm.
And they have all these. They had all these stupid little rules about it. It was really weird. But and they still do that, right? Like when when they started the CW stuff, like at first it was like you can't have Superman, you can't have Batman, you can't have Wonder Woman. And then Supergirl came out and eventually we're like, oh, okay, we'll let you have Superman one time. And they're like, maybe we'll give you two again. And then eventually they do their own super. So it's just like it's so weird. It's just completely without logic.
Yeah, they're like, kids that are hoarding their toys.
Exactly.
Okay, well, well, I got my toys over here, and you keep your toys over there, and our toys aren't going to play together.
Yeah.
But I mean, and don't get me wrong, I like him as an actor, but he was just miscast for this role. The role wasn't written very well.
No.
I don't like that costume. I don't understand why, and people have tried to explain to me, I don't understand why a speedster would put together a costume that has all these fiddly bits, hanging on it, and and all these different plates that are stacked on top of each other and things like that. I know, folks. I know. Bruce says, "Yeah, this is the same material that they use on the space shuttle," and how he runs at super speed, so I guess that's how he stole it. And that's why the costume looks like that. I'm sorry, I don't buy. I'm sorry. I just don't buy it. I don't like the costume. The costume makes no sense. And his characterization makes no sense. He does get in some good lines.
Yeah. I was about to say the same thing.
And I do like the scene where he's showing the insecurity, where he says to Bruce, he said, listen, you've done this for a lot of years. I've never been in this before. I don't know what to do. And Bruce says, just save one person.
Yeah.
And you'll know what to do. And that's a great character moment right there, because he saves one person, then when he sees he can do that, then he gets everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I felt I was actually going to I was thinking of that line too, like that, because that's such a Batman response, right? Just like save one and then you'll know what to do. And also like, and he does have some other like funny little quips here and there. Like I like his line about, even though it makes no sense, right? I do think the brunch line is kind of funny. It doesn't make any sense for Barry to say that, or like to put it in the context of not understanding people. But it is funny because it's like, what is brunch? You stand in line for an hour for basically lunch. And I'm like, well, he's kind of got a point there.
Yeah. I mean, listen, just because it doesn't make any sense doesn't mean he's wrong.
Yeah. And I was like, when he asked Bruce, what's your superpower? And Bruce's like, I'm rich.
I'm rich. Yeah. He did. No, he says that with total confidence. I'm rich. Yeah. That's the best superpower of all, kid.
Yeah. And then, and Ray Fisher, right? He doesn't have a lot to do in this movie. And, he's made no secret about why he thinks the reasons for that were. But I kind of liked him as Cyborg.
I have no problem with his performance as Cyborg, and again, okay, you know how I feel about this sort of thing, because I've said this before. I have a problem with anybody, white or black, who makes a lot of money from being in one of these movies, and to me, instead of complaining about how bad they treated you on it, you should be using whatever notoriety you got out of being in this movie to advance your career. That's what you put your energy. To me, that's what you should be putting your energies into. But I'm not in that business, so what? But I liked his characterization of Cyborg. Of course, he was acting with Joe Morton, and anytime who plays his father. And Joe Morton is the type of actor that you can't help but be better when you're in a scene with him. And again, the discussion that they have together, they have a scene where Joe Morton, he comes from the lab and he, comes back home, and, they have this whole discussion about what happened to him and how Cyborg's mother got killed in the accident, and how and again, it's a nice little character scene. It's a nice little. This is a movie that is not afraid to have its characters talk to each other,
right,
and have conversations about what they're doing and how they feel about what they're doing. For instance, the whole conversation about bringing Superman back to life. That's a great conversation because everybody in there has their own opinion about it. Should they do it? Okay, maybe we can do it, but if we can do it, should we do it? Aquaman says, well, if we bring him back, there could be something of him that's gone. Barry says, listen, this may be some Pet Cemetery.
Yeah. That's another great line when Superman comes back and he's like, oh, Pet Cemetery.
Yeah, he said, Cyborg, he says, yeah, I think everybody has their own opinion. Everybody voices their own opinion. And it says something about their own personality in their response to this. It's enough that if I recommend Justice League for any reason, besides the outstanding action sequences, because I was watching it, like I said, I was watching it today, and I said, wow, the action sequences are very good. And but it's also for those moments where we have the characters talking to each other.
Yeah. Now, a few things I want to touch. First off, just a little note. Joe Morton's got to stop messing around with cybernetic technology.
Yeah. That shit never works out for him.
No. But you're right. Like the thing about, okay, so here's the thing about this movie that is, because you're right. That conversation is really good. And I do like that they all have their own reasons for approaching this. The whole problem is like a lot of the conversation is hinged on they accept for a fact that this can be done. Right. Like, and I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm like, how does Bruce even know that this will work? Right. Because but it's just like, because he knows nothing really about the mother box. He knows nothing about Kryptonian physiology. So it doesn't make any sense why he'd assume that, Superman cells are just lying dormant and this can recharge them. Like it just feels so out of left field for how they get from point A to point B.
Yeah. And Bruce Wayne is not exactly like a leap of faith type of guy.
Exactly.
To just say, okay, well, you know what? I think it's going to work. So let's go ahead. The Bruce Wayne I know, the Batman I know wouldn't do it unless he knew 100% it was going to work.
That's another thing too, right? Like I kind of feel like Bruce's position, like the Bruce Wayne we know, he would be more closer to siding with Diana.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't know what kind of stuff you're messing with.
Right. Diana would be more like the one.
She'd be more willing to take a leap of faith. Yeah.
Right. Well, maybe it'll work. If we believe hard enough and if we clap our hands enough and we click our heels together 3 times, and Bruce would be the one saying, nah, we could end up with an insane Kryptonian on it. Like Barry said, it could be Pet Cemetery.
Right. Yeah. So so the conversation is good, but the points of view don't really fit the characters.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
That's one of the things. Another thing is this whole movie, doesn't it kind of feel with the Superman stuff that it's set in a world that it's a sequel to a very different Batman v Superman?
Yeah.
Because,
it's not the same one I saw.
I know, because you've got the whole world is mourning Superman. They talk about how he was a beacon of hope. And I'm just like, did we watch the same BVS? Because I don't remember any of that in there.
I don't remember none of that shit.
I remember everybody ready to burn Superman in effigy. I don't remember anybody looking at him as a beacon of hope.
Alien go home and
yeah.
And oh my God, he's going to take over the world one day. And that's what I remember. Since when did Superman become this shining beacon of hope now?
Yeah, I mean he was looked at completely. He was treated with nothing but suspicion and disdain in both Man of Steel and BVS. So it feels like they jumped over a movie here.
Yeah, especially when you look at the timeline. Superman obviously didn't have enough time to build up enough goodwill with the people of the world where they would mourn him like this.
Oh,
we do see in this movie that the whole world is mourning for him.
Yeah.
And you make a very good point because you said, well, wait a minute. Didn't they watch their own movies before they made this one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess that's part of the whole. We're trying to shift away from that.
Yeah, and again, like I said, this was a movie that they pumped out real quickly. So yeah, they had to make leaps of logic, like the one you just pointed out.
Mhm.
You know, as far as the characterization go, and they do it quite a bit in this movie.
Yeah.
There are quite a few leaps of logic to get us to where we got to go.
Yeah, and one of those, and part of the reason they did that is because the producers, the execs at Warner Brothers, if this movie didn't come out on its release date, right? If they had delayed it and waited until Snyder could come back or whatever, or not rushed it into, they would have lost out on their year-end bonuses. So that's really why they're doing here.
Oh, okay. Well, listen.
And also, the scene when Superman is resurrected, like this is another example of something that it's just like there's a lot of good parts in it. There's a lot of good moments in the movie. There are a lot of good character stuff, but the story itself, it's just like taking these leaps because Superman comes back and he's like in this rage and he's like, you can understand it with him being, acting out in shock because he's just been resurrected, right? I can understand that. But then when he goes after Batman and he says, you won't let me die, you won't let me live. And he says, can you bleed, right? That whole, and he's speaking in that like very dark, sinister voice. And then it's like, oh, wow, this is Superman is evil. But then it changes right away. And then it's like, no, he was just kind of in shock. Because once he sees Lois, he's fine.
Yeah, right. Yeah. First of all, I don't understand the whole thing. Okay, if they had stuck him in a Lazarus pit, I could understand that because that's what the Lazarus pit does. It makes you crazy for a while.
Yeah.
For you, but this thing was designed to work with Kryptonians.
Mm-hmm.
So why would he be crazy when it comes? Unless, of course, it was
I think
box.
I think that's the idea. Is it's because the mother box being interacted with it as well.
But see, once again, this movie itself. Okay, going back to what you just said, this is something that should have been discussed, and it should have been pointed out. Okay, well, you know what? Due to these two conflicting technologies that weren't meant to work together, now we're forcing them to work together. We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and more than that, like the people behind the scenes, they should have understood. Look, what's going to happen is Superman's going to go a little wonky and he's going to start lashing out. But otherwise, it's just like, oh, Superman is in shock. Oh no, he's evil. Oh no, he was just in it. Just because they just wanted that scene where he threatens Batman like that with the same way Batman threatened him, right? And it just feels like they were. It's that square peg in a round hole thing. It just doesn't quite fit together well. But I will say that scene when Superman's fighting off the Justice League has one of my favorite moments in the movie when Barry's running at super speed. And you see, and everything's like in slow motion for him, and then you see Superman's eyes move at normal speed, and you're like, "Oh shit!"
And he catches him at the corner of his eye.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, I see you. You ain't slick."
Yeah, I love that moment. And another thing, and I know we've talked about this before, whenever we had one of our random digressions about Justice League, but has Ezra Miller never ran before? Has he never seen how people run?
Yeah. I haven't seen anybody run that weird since Steven Seagal.
He's got these weird like arm flailing things. Like, what are you doing? Are you swimming? What is this?
Yeah. I mean, okay. Again, I can't see a runner putting together a costume that's got all these excess, fiddly bits on it, as I call them. And when he's running, it's more like he's trying to swim.
It's so weird.
It's not. I said, wait a minute. Didn't they show you pictures of actual runners?
And I also don't know why they have him, why they use blue lightning instead of like, it's always, the Flash, right? It's the trademark, the red, the yellow streak, right? You've got the yellow. I don't know why the lightning is blue in here. It just makes no sense.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Like you said, it should be yellow or red.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? If before Flashpoint, someone's got to take Ezra Miller and hook him up Clockwork Orange style in front of a TV screen and just make him watch Tom Cruise movies nonstop so he can internalize how people look when they run.
Yeah, exactly. Because apparently he's never run in his life.
No,
Just going
no.
by this movie. It's real. I don't know. It's just that I think that, okay, best way that I could put this, we were talking about Iron Fist in one of our episodes. And I said, okay, the problem with Iron Fist is that if you're going to do a show where your main character is a master martial artist, then it kind of would help you out if you hire an actual master martial artist to play and teach him how to act.
Yeah. Or the other way to do it is you keep the mask, right? You keep the Iron Fist mask. So yeah, what's his name can play Danny Rand when he's not fighting. But when you do the fight scenes, you put in a guy who knows how to fight. Right.
Okay. If you're going to have a guy playing a super speedster whose main power is that he runs very fast, well then show him videos of Usain Bolt, you know, a guy who actually does run fast. So he can get an idea, okay, this is how the arms are supposed to move. This is how the legs go, you know, the torso turns this way. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It is no surprise to me that he actually spends a good deal of this movie falling over himself.
Oh, yeah.
He tripped. If you notice, the Flash trips a whole lot in this movie over his own feet.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And let's see. You know what? I wanted to talk about J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon.
Inspired.
It's you know what's so weird though is I remember in the lead up to this movie, like he was showing pictures of himself like training and like buffing up for Commissioner Gordon, and then you see him in this movie and he's wearing a suit the whole time. It's like, what was the point of that?
My suspicion is that there probably was a lot more that he did.
Maybe,
that we didn't see. But I'm just saying that, you know what? Is there anything that the man can't play?
No, definitely not.
Because you look for some signs of J. Jonah Jameson in this, and it's not there.
No, it's completely Jim Gordon.
Yeah, he's completely. Matter of fact, he looked like he stepped right out the comic book. I was scared. I said, "Oh shit!"
Yeah. I mean, that was perfect casting there.
Him, and Ben Affleck, they look like, you know, they stepped right out of a Frank Miller.
Yes.
Book. Yeah.
And I do like that. This is another one of those funny moments when he turns around and all the Justice League is gone except for Flash.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, wow, they really just kind of disappeared. That's rude.
Yeah, Flash said, that's rude. But, you know, Jim Gordon should be used to that. But I guess he's not used to it from the other ones as well.
Right, yeah.
Oh, that's great. And I love the line where he says to Batman, he said, I'm glad to see that you're learning to play with others.
And he's like, it might be temporary. And then I was just about to mention something. I completely lost my train of thought.
Well, let me give you a thought, because I definitely wanted to get your take on this, as this is in a movie of a whole lot of controversial things. This is probably one of the most controversial. The villain of the movie, Steppenwolf.
Oh yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say he's controversial. I'd say he's just kind of bland.
Okay.
I mean, he's just. You go ahead. You give your thoughts on him.
No, you know what? I'm trying to figure out what all of the problem. Apparently, the problem with Steppenwolf that everybody has is that it was Steppenwolf and it was Darkseid.
Yeah, see, I don't care about that. That doesn't bother me. But it's just, he's just such a, he just seems like such a bland villain. Like, I almost forget Steppenwolf is even in this movie. Like, he's got like, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that he's a very basic, generic villain. Actually.
Very generic. Yeah. That's my real problem with him. He's got nothing that sets him apart, right? Nothing that, he's a parademon who talks a lot, basically.
Yeah, really. Yeah. He's a parademon with an upgrade.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But he's got no real personality. We don't get any sense of why he's doing this, right? It's just all, he's doing it because he's evil.
He's got no ambition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he has no personality. You know, he just talks about, well, yeah, I'm going to conquer you. I'm going to take over the world. Okay, well, why? What are you going to do with the world? Well, I'm going to remake it. Okay, again, why?
Why? Yeah.
What are you going to do with it after you remake it? Basically, here's what it is. The Justice League needs something to fight, and that's Steppenwolf, for better or for worse.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe it'll be better in Snyder's Justice League cut, but it just because that was just, if you're gonna do a Justice League movie and it's gonna be a done in one thing, then use a villain who's gonna be a done in one villain, right? Don't use someone like Steppenwolf that's gonna lead to a sequel that's never gonna come.
But then again, Perry, here's the thing. No, this is my take on it.
Mm-hmm.
The movie, you know what? The movie is really just all about seeing these 6 characters on screen together. Really, that's what it's about. Steppenwolf really doesn't even matter.
No, you're right. And that, in a lot of this movie, the ways this movie works, it is because you're seeing those 6 on screen together.
Right. I
Like
mean, because listen, okay. Who in their right mind does not want to see the first cinematic scene of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman on screen together?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, just them 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add on the other 3 and you say, okay, you got it. This movie is mainly just about getting these characters together for future, for whatever future movies that they had planned.
Yeah.
Really, that's it. Yeah.
It is.
And Steppenwolf is just a MacGuffin,
yeah,
to use an Alfred Hitchcock term, to get them together.
Yeah, and I get that. It's just, it's such a disappointment when you compare it to how the Avengers got on screen together, and how
absolutely,
how not only was that just amazing to see, right? That scene where you see Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor all standing on screen together for the first time, right? That's an amazing moment, but it's an earned moment. Or the same thing when you see the rotating shot of the Avengers when they're right in the middle of the Chitauri battle, right? That's an earned moment. The scene here, when you've got the whole league standing up at the end of the battle, it doesn't feel earned. It feels very forced.
It feels staged.
Exactly. Yeah.
It feels like, okay, this is the part where you cheer. And nobody cheered when I went to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't like you said, that moment where we first saw Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America. It was people cheered.
Yeah.
People cheered. The other scene that you named when they was in New York and they were fighting, people cheered. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I went to see this in the theater, nobody cheered. Yeah. Because it felt like it was staged. It was forced. It was an artificial moment designed to elicit a response from us. That, as you said, was not earned.
Right. Yeah. And that's the main problem. It is great to see these scenes of Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill and Gal Gadot and all the rest, really embodying their characters. And they do good work in this. I'm not going to take anything away from them, but it's just the whole thing is just so staged. And it's just everything surrounding it just doesn't measure up to the promise. And it's not a bad movie. It's a disappointing movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not. I will always argue against people that it's horrible, it's bad. No, it's not. It's not a bad movie. I watched it today and I was very entertained. I haven't seen it in about I would say a good 6 months. And I was saying, yeah, you know what? This ain't bad. There's a lot of good movies. There's a plethora of good moments in this movie. And I said, I think the action scenes are very well done. I love the action scenes.
Yeah.
You know what? And I especially love the little bits. For instance, when we see Batman, when he does his little action things, we hear the original Danny Elfman Batman theme.
That was another thing I was going to mention is that so Whedon replaced Junkie XL was Snyder's composer on this, and Whedon replaced him with Danny Elfman, which I think was a good idea, because Danny Elfman, he works in the Batman theme. He works in the Superman theme, the John Williams Superman theme.
Yeah. When Superman finally comes back and he pounds the shit out of Steppenwolf, we hear the Superman theme. I said, okay. Now somebody knows what they're doing.
Yes. Yeah. And Danny Elfman, he's one of those guys. Him and John Williams, they defined superhero music, basically.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we said this in our episode when we were waxing about what was it? Superman.
Mhm.
Superman. And we spent about 20 minutes talking about the Superman theme alone.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, that's like the most iconic superhero theme of all time.
Mm-hmm. And we talked we mentioned a little bit, but Jason Momoa, this is when we first got his there's a lot of it's so funny when you watch this compared to watching Aquaman. It feels so much like he's trying to be a badass and he's trying to impress everyone, and in Aquaman it feels much more natural. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but I did like the line when they're in the troop carrier, and he praises, he's like, talking about how hot Wonder Woman is, and then she kind of wraps the lasso around his ankle. He starts being truthful about how he doesn't want to die.
It's kind of fun. You know what? They should have, I know that they were trying to make like the Flash kind of like the comedy relief of this movie, but it should have been Jason Momoa, because he naturally is a funny guy.
Yeah.
He can be very funny without even trying. And yeah, you're right. He kind of works a little bit too hard at the whole badass routine in this movie, but I'm willing to overlook it simply for the fact that I just enjoy him as Aquaman so much.
Yeah, same here.
I mean, it's pretty hard to, I don't know. You were talking about the casting, and we have so many people in this movie. Like, for now, Gal Gadot, for an entire generation, she's going to be Wonder Woman.
Oh, definitely.
Just like Linda Carter was the Wonder Woman for an entire generation. Jason Momoa, for an entire generation, he's going to be,
Aquaman.
This guy. Yeah, Aquaman. He's going to be Aquaman.
Ezra Miller is not going to be a Flash's generation of the Flash.
No.
They're going to look at Grant Gustin. But go ahead, Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck, I think that years from now, we're going to be looking at him as a missed opportunity, because I firmly believe, based on this movie, Suicide Squad, and Batman versus Superman, that we could have had the best live action Batman in Ben Affleck.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Yeah. I think if he had, here's the problem. He never got to have a solo movie as Batman. And
also, it's just like, he's only allowed these brief flashes of brilliance in each of these movies. Right? Like, he's never because the story is forcing him to be something else. Right. I don't even really count Suicide Squad that much, because it's basically just a cameo. But in Batman v Superman, right, they're trying to force the Dark Knight Returns Batman on him, and then in this one, he's much better. And if you take some of those flashes of brilliance in BVS and you combine it with Justice League and you give him his own movie, it would have been amazing.
Yeah, because undoubtedly the best parts of BVS is with him and Wonder Woman.
Or him and Alfred.
Yeah, those are the best parts of the movie.
Yes, yeah.
And I just think that it's, for my money, he had the best live action fight scene as Batman I've ever seen in any movie.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best. Yeah, wow. That was phenomenal. So
that was like, remember last week we were talking about Mark Miller, and when I'm reading his stuff, there are sometimes when I read something like Red Sun and I just wish I could slap him upside the head and say, why don't you write like that all the time? Yeah. I feel the same way about Zack Snyder when I see that scene in BVS. I want to smack him up the head and say, why can't you direct like that all the time?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah. So I think that that's the only thing that is holding Ben Affleck back from being a truly great Batman, and that he never had a solo movie of his own, where we just saw him as Batman doing Batman shit. So and interacting and having greater interaction with other characters such as Jim Gordon and whatever villain they put in his movie, probably Ezra Miller playing the Joker. But
fortunately, we are going to see more of Ben Affleck as Batman. So fortunately, this isn't the last outing, right? Because he's going to be in the Flash movie. He's reshooting. He's doing extra scenes for Snyder's Justice League. So we are going to see more of him as Batman. And we'll see how that works out. Like with Snyder doing Justice League, I'm not sure if that'll be if we'll get more of the Justice League Batman or if we'll get more of the BVS Batman. But Flash should be interesting. I'm probably more looking forward to seeing what he does in Flash.
Yeah, especially since the rumors that I've heard here and there is that this is supposed to be the movie that's going to fix the continuity of the DC films.
Yeah, that's the assumption. But nothing confirmed, but that's the assumption. And it makes sense because that's what the Flashpoint comics did, right? They created the New 52.
Well, I don't know. I don't see any reason why anything needs to be fixed because they already established with the Crisis on Infinite Earths thing that, there's all these different Earths. So, but then again, I'm not running things. So,
you know what? Another thing I had about this movie that really kind of annoyed me is that plus that whole thing with the Russian family, that's one of Whedon's weak points is he wants to focus in on these normal people in the midst of all this. And it just kind of feels tacked on.
Yeah. Right? But there was absolutely no reason for that to be in the movie.
No.
Period.
But I will say I did like when Superman comes back, right? And this is just more of his the great little flashes of charm that Cavill was allowed to use in this movie, right? Like when he first off, when he comes back and he hears that other people are in trouble and he says, "Oh, they're civilians." And then Batman's like, no, it's okay. Barry's after. He's like, no, there are too many. And then he flies away. That is Superman.
Yeah.
That is what should have been in Man of Steel.
And, you know what? Again, Henry Cavill had the potential to rival the great Christopher Reeve as Superman if he had been given a decent movie to be in.
Exactly. Yeah.
The man was never given a decent movie to work with and show exactly what he could do as Superman.
And we get those flashes in this. And so we do get that great scene where where Flash saves the family and then he looks over and he sees Superman carrying the entire tenement.
Yeah, he's carrying the entire tenement, which again is such a Superman moment.
Yeah. Oh, and also when he's with Cyborg and he says, he's like, when he blow back, he's like, yeah, some, but I think we can survive it. And Superman's like, okay, good, because I kind of like being alive.
Yeah.
And afterwards, like, oh, I wish I was dead. Also, the stinger too, the post credits or the mid credit scene with him and Flash. Like that's just another example of his charm, right? He's like, well, if I win, you're off the team. And then Flash is like, wait, are you serious? And Superman just kind of like smiles at him. He's like, no. He's like, but you have to take us out but Bruce said you have to take us out to brunch. But that's another example of those character scenes, those little conversations that work really well.
And you know what? That is also such a great moment for longtime comic book fans who remembers every once in a while DC would have these races between Superman and the Flash to prove who was the fastest. Yeah, it's such a great. Okay, you know what? I'm glad you pointed it out because Ezra Miller did have another great scene where they're digging up the body and him and Cyborg are talking.
That scene just feels so. Yeah, I remember that scene. Just feels so weird though. Like they're digging up Superman's body. It just
and they're bonding. Oh yeah, and I mean they're bonding over digging up Superman's body.
Yeah. I don't think I really like that scene. It just feels so. I understand what you're saying. It's like me. I'm just kind of like this. Just doesn't. This feels like something we could have skipped over.
Grave robbing Superman's body.
Yeah. But okay, so one thing though is that you've got Aquaman on the team, and you're the writer, you're the director. You can set this final battle anywhere you want, and you've got you should set it on the coastline so you can see some Aquaman do some really badass shit. Like that was one thing that I felt was like another missed opportunity, right? Like have like a bunch of parademons coming through the air, and then Aquaman summons up like a giant shark to jump out and attack them.
Yeah, but but you know what? It's easier to just have him surfing on the back of a parademon.
It is, and I'm just saying, which was a cool scene, but it does just feel like a missed opportunity and a lack of creativity to not put Aquaman in a place where he can really show off what he can do.
Yeah. And know what? I understand completely because if you notice, every other member of the team does have opportunity to show off their particular skill set.
Right.
Except for Aquaman, who is basically just a strong guy until Superman shows up.
Yeah.
He's, Aquaman is their powerhouse until Superman shows up. And once he shows up, well, then, of course, Aquaman and Wonder Woman, to an extent, become redundant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another thing, too, and maybe it's because I watched this movie, so soon after Wonder Woman, but you can really tell the difference in directing styles between a woman director in Patty Jenkins and a male director in Josh Whedon. When you look at how they photograph Diana in both of those movies, like it really kind of stood out to me. Just like the angles they use, the camera placement, it seemed a lot more. There was a lot. I really understood what they talk about when they talk about the male gaze.
They're way more gratuitous butt shots.
Yes, lots more like low angle shots, which are border on upskirt shots.
Yeah,
there's a lot more of that stuff, and it's not like very obvious, right? But after seeing, like, if I hadn't seen Wonder Woman, I probably would not have noticed these things. They probably would not have jumped out at me. But after seeing Wonder Woman and how Patty Jenkins filmed Gal Gadot, it jumped out at me a lot more. I remember it jumped out at me a lot more, especially when I saw it in the theater.
Oh, okay.
Like over time, maybe it's just because I've gotten used to this movie because I've seen it enough times. But yeah, in the theater, it definitely became really obvious to me.
Well, I noticed that today when I was watching. I was saying, "Wow!" I said, "There seems to be an awful lot of shots of her butt in this movie that I remember from before."
Yeah.
Especially, there's one scene. She's going to meet Cyborg, and he says, "Okay," and he gives her address. You know what I mean? And she pulls up on the street, and she gets out of the car, and she's walking up and down the street, and it's more like she's a fashion model on a runway.
Yes, yeah.
Rather than she's going for a clandestine meeting with another superhero. Because she's like stopping and turning and posing, and then she stops, and then she walks a little bit, and then she turns and poses again, and then she said, and I said, okay, cue RuPaul.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. And anything else to really talk about with this movie? I mean, one more thing, of course, the post-credit scene where you get to see Deathstroke.
Oh yeah, with your favorite Lex Luthor.
I was so excited because they show him in the cell and his back is facing them. I'm like, wait, that's not Jesse Eisenberg. Did they recast Luthor? Oh, this is awesome. And then they reveal it's just some crazy guy and that Jesse Eisenberg is still in. And I'm like, damn it, so close.
And let me just say this. You know what? I'm not opposed to Jesse Eisenberg playing Lex Luthor 20 years from now.
Yeah.
He's just simply too, I mean, because listen, he's a phenomenal actor. I love him.
He is good.
But he's just simply too young. That's all that,
He's too young, and just the way his character is written is just so, he's much more Mark Zuckerberg than like Walter White, for example.
Yeah. Okay. Again, that's another actor. That's the guy they should have got to play Lex Luthor.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. In fact, that's what I would love to see them like do another Superman movie. Get Henry Cavill and Amy Adams back. Get, Lawrence Fishburne back as Perry White, because that's a good casting choice as well, even though they kind of bastardized Perry White and turned him into this weird cynic, right? Who doesn't believe in like the press can really can really tell truth or something like that. Like
they didn't have a good handle on Perry White. Because Perry White, Perry White is like he should be like the last of the great newspapermen.
Right. He's gruff and he's a cynical optimist. Let's put it that way, because he believes that the journalism can do good in the world.
Right. Exactly. I don't go with, much as I like Lawrence Fishburne. I don't know. See, me and people are always telling me, oh well, that times change and we should always have characters be fluid and be able to change and go with the times, everything. Okay, I have nothing against that. Really, I don't. As a writer, I appreciate the fact that characters have to grow and change and they have to mature and they have to evolve and so. But there are some core basic things you can keep about a character because that makes that character unique.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if you take that away from that character, like, okay, going back to the whole James Bond thing, I hate to keep going back to that, folks, but that, and I go back to that because I had this argument recently with somebody else where they were talking about, they were talking about the girl who's the new 007 in this movie. And it gobsmacks me that people, when I say to them, I said, well, you do know that 007 is just a number. There was a 007 before James Bond. James Bond is the character. 007 is the designation of his number. But this person I was talking to was an idiot who had never read any of the Ian Fleming novels. So he didn't know what the fuck he was talking about.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so I was saying to him, so he said, well, I don't understand. James Bond could be a woman. Why can't you do that? I said, no. I said, when you steal a car and you file off the numbers and you paint the car and you present it as a brand new car, that's Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, yeah.
I said, it's the same with a character.
Yeah,
definitely. You do not file off the, give it a brand new coat of paint and just say, okay, this is a brand new character. No, it isn't.
Right. Then you're just I agree with you with that. I mean, you got to keep those core principles. If you don't, then why are you writing this character? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly.
And plus, it's not like
wait a minute. And sorry, you and I, both you and I, we've had plenty of conversations about this. The bastardization of characters that we've loved, that we have seen, just for the sake of changing the character. There was no good reason behind it. Right. But the writers just did it because they just said, well, I didn't like the way that character was done before. Well, then why? Okay, well, then why did you want to do the character?
Yeah, yeah. If you don't like the way if you can't find that core of the character, then you shouldn't be writing that character. Right. Like we said before with Snyder, he said, like, my whole thing was I wanted to make Superman grown up. Like, you don't have to make Superman grown up. Like, if you think Superman is a character for everybody, he's not just a character for adults. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you and I, again, something that we've talked about before, that's a large part of the problem with comic books in general and superhero movies, in that they insist on making these movies for adults. And, there's nothing in them, for younger audiences, that appeals to them.
Right.
Because they're making these movies for 50-year-old white guys that have been reading them, since they were 10 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
And these guys insist that these characters grow up along with them.
Right. I remember I think it was Greg Rucka who said the fact that it's a Superman movie that I can't take my 10-year-old nephew or whatever to see is a travesty, right? He's like, Superman should be at the most a PG rating. And he was right. You can't really argue with that because Superman is this character who should be for everybody. It shouldn't be just for adults.
Yeah, I've told this story many times before. When I went to see Man of Steel, I'm in the lobby, waiting to go into the theater. And there were all these kids that was, they was excited to see Superman on screen. This was their first Superman movie they was going to go see and everything like that. Okay, going to the movie. About 45 minutes into the movie, I'm hearing kids snoring, or they're asking their parents, can they go home? This is boring. And see, that hurt me to my heart, because any kid going to see a Superman movie, that should be a magical experience.
Exactly.
A kid should fall asleep or be wanting to go home.
Yeah, I agree completely. And taking it back to Perry White, that's like the people who say, well, you got to change with the time. Well, even you look at real journalists, they're not all cynical, right? There are people, there are journalists, real journalists out there who believe that journalism is important, that it can have an impact and all that. So it's not like it's unrealistic to have Perry White be an optimist about what journalism is capable of. So
as a matter of fact, you have Perry White as a counterpoint to the popular opinion.
Exactly.
Of what journalism is now, in order to show people, okay, this is what journalism once was, and it could be that again.
Right.
Because we have guys like Perry White who still, who still believe in the power of true journalism. Perry White is a very important character in the whole Superman mythos. I've loved him in all of his incarnations. I love the Great Caesar's Ghost. And I've always been of the opinion that, much like Jim Gordon, he figured out a long time ago that Clark was Superman. He just never said nothing.
Yeah.
Because he's not a stupid guy.
Right. And also, I think also another one you can put in that column is Joe Robertson in Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Robbie knows Peter's. And in fact, they reference that in Spider-Man 2. Right? You remember that there's that scene where Robbie says something like, I heard Spider-Man was there, and he's kind of giving Peter this look. And it's like, oh, he knows what's going on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's not a stupid guy. He figured it out long ago, but he said, you know what? He's doing good out there. So why should I upset the apple cart?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And same thing with Superman. That's, you put him in like, because everyone said that about Man of Steel and BVS, right? Oh, well, Superman's not realistic anymore. Well, but then you look at Winter Soldier, right? Steve Rogers, Captain America, stands apart in that movie, and he stands out even more because of the world that you put his ideals up against.
Everybody said you could not do Superman traditionally the way Superman is presented. They said that would be impossible to do in a movie today. And then what did Marvel did? They made Captain America.
Yes. Yeah.
And they put the lie to that, because this is Captain America with his traditional values and everything like that. And like you so accurately state, the fact that they put him in today's world, that's the whole conflict with Captain America and the world he's in. Can he hold on to those values and all of the things that make him who he is in this new world that he's placed in, where everybody's telling him that everything he believes in doesn't matter anymore?
Right. Yeah.
And he's telling him, no, it doesn't.
Okay. All right. So I think that's basically any final things you want to say about Justice League?
Only that, for the 5 or 6 of you that are still listening. Okay. You say you hate Justice League. Okay. I don't get it. You know what? I can't even understand it, because it's a movie, and I don't think I hate a movie as much as a lot of people I know hate this movie. It's not a bad movie, folks. It's a misguided movie. It's trying for something. This is a movie that is trying to run a marathon before it even knows how to walk.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's not. There's a lot of good stuff in this movie to enjoy and like, and I hope that Perry and I have brought some of it out, that when you watch it again, and I do hope you would go back and see it again and look at it through new eyes, because there's a lot to like about this movie. As I have said ad nauseum, it's got those great little character moments where it's just two characters talking to each other. It's got great action sequences. Some of the best action sequences I've seen in a DC cinematic movie. The villain is crap, but it makes up for it with all of the rich characterization that we see in this movie. This movie, like I said before, basically is just to get these characters together for future movies. That's really all it is. And if you take it on that basis, and really, that's the only basis you should take it on.
Yeah. it's got lots of flaws. I mean, but the cast is good, and that's really the saving grace. Is the cast is so good, and they do have these really great moments together, and yeah, you're right. The action scenes are really good, even though I think the last scene was set in the without thought to what Aquaman could really be capable of, but and yeah, it feels like a rough draft.
Yeah, yeah, that's what it doesn't. Yeah, you know what? Bingo. It doesn't feel like a completely finished movie, and a large part of that comes from the fact that as has been well documented, is that the original director, Zack Snyder, due to family tragedy, he had to leave off in this movie, and it was finished by
Joss Whedon.
Yeah, Joss Whedon. Yeah. So all I can say is that after watching it today, I am a little bit more interested in seeing this new version of Justice League that's going to be on HBO Max. I believe it's next year.
Yeah.
It's got to be next year because we only got this year's almost gone.
No, it's coming out in like December of next year, I think.
Yeah, but after watching this, you know what? I'm a little bit more interested in seeing what they do with it, mainly because, as I always say, I see the potential in this movie. This movie had a tremendous amount of potential. Oh, excuse me, a tremendous amount of potential to be the Avengers.
Yes, yeah.
It did.
And I think as well, but you know what? I'm of the opinion that I actually think this is an improvement, despite it feeling unfinished and like a rough draft. I'd still think that this would have been an improvement over what Snyder would have done. I think a lot of the stuff with like Superman, a lot of the Batman's growth and change in this movie, I don't think we would get as much of that in the Snyder Cut.
Do you know? Okay, this is how I knew. I said, oh, okay. See, he put his foot wrong right at the start of the movie. When we get the opening credits, and he plays that song. What's that song?
Mad World, I think it.
No.
Oh no.
Everybody Knows, the Leonard Cohen song.
Oh, that one.
Everybody Knows. Yeah. Which was such a blatant attempt to try to recreate, the Watchmen. And I said, no, Zach, you shouldn't have did that. You shouldn't have done that.
But that could have been a Whedon choice, though.
You think so?
I don't know. See, because it's hard to say because Zack Snyder is credited as the only director on this movie, so it's hard to say like how much stuff was completely of his was tossed out, how much was because I don't know. But you're right. It feels like a Snyder thing to do, but it could have also been Whedon trying to do what he thinks Snyder would have done.
Okay, I'll go with that. But I'm just saying that.
But you are right. Yeah.
It set the wrong tone. I mean, for the movie. To my mind, it should have been more like the opening of, I don't know, Superman the movie. They should have had a big bombastic theme song and, credits flying across the screen and stuff like that. Instead of starting out with this somber, dark tone that is, and like I said, it just struck me too. And the thing with the guys trying to rob the fruit stand, why was that in there?
Yeah, that was kind of like, I guess they're trying to show that, the world has become hope. They're trying to emphasize the hopelessness. From a story point of view, I understand what they were trying to do, but they didn't stick the landing.
Yeah.
Because the whole point is they're trying to start off the movie with this idea of like hope is dead now that Superman's dead. So I understand it from that perspective, but they don't quite stick the landing very well. And okay, so I think that's about all we got to say on Justice League. Oh, you got something else?
2 more words.
Okay.
Diane Lane.
Oh yeah. You know what? It's so funny because that she's playing Superman's mom because she was Ben Affleck's love interest in the movie where Ben Affleck played George Reeves.
Really?
Yeah, Hollywoodland. I'm pretty sure she was his.
Okay.
Let me just double check here.
I've never seen that movie.
You never saw Hollywoodland?
I've never seen it.
It's okay. It wasn't anything, spectacular, but it was. He did a good job as George Reeves.
Yeah, that's where I heard that it was, the life story of George Reeves.
Yeah. She played Diane Lane played Tony Mannix.
Okay.
Yeah. So now we know. Now we really know why they fought. Superman found out that Batman fucked his mom.
Hey, serious shit, man.
But it is kind of funny though, because Diane Lane is only like a few years older than Henry Cavill.
Yeah. But you know what? Diane Lane is in the pantheon of actresses that should have had a far bigger career.
Mm-hmm.
Diane Lane is probably number 2 or 3.
Yeah.
She should have had a way big, and I don't know, maybe that's because she didn't want a bigger career. I always kind of feel funny because then I feel like I'm trying to speak for that person. Where some actors are actually kind of happy not being, mega stars, anything like that.
Right.
But I always felt that she should have had a far bigger career than the one that she had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. All right. Okay, so we got the elephant out of the room. We finished talking about Justice League, and now hopefully we don't have to talk about it again until the Snyder Cut comes out.
We probably
will. Yeah, let's be honest.
We probably will. All roads lead back to Justice League.
All roads lead back to Justice League. All right, so that was my pick. That means next pick is yours. So what are we going to watch next?
Oh my God. Okay. Okay, I'm going to loop back around because we had talked about this movie briefly when we did Brightburn.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking about how this movie could very easily fit into the same universe, and it'll give us a chance to talk about, one of the most, who I feel is a misunderstood director. I'm talking about, of course, the movie Chronicle.
Mm-hmm.
Directed by our good friend
Josh Trank.
Yeah, Josh Trank. Yeah.
Okay, sounds cool. So I have to look that up somewhere because that's one of the movies I don't own. It's not on Netflix, and this is a movie I actually haven't seen before. So this is going to be
really.
I haven't seen Chronicle.
Oh, okay. So, well, then I will be even more interested in hearing what you have to think, because you've seen Fantastic Four.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Or Fantast Four or whatever.
I don't know what that mess was supposed to be. But anyway, yeah. So, but I am even more interested now in hearing what you have to say, because you know how I feel about Fantastic Four. I do not credit the failure of that movie to Josh Trank at all. I credit it to whoever hired him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I have no idea why somebody, after seeing Chronicle, would think that he would be the perfect. I can't imagine. You know what? He'd be perfect for Fantastic Four. I really can't. Unless the person who hired him had no idea what Fantastic Four was about, which knowing all the things I've heard about movie executives is probably very close to the truth.
And that was Fox, so that makes a lot of sense that they just
they just didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'll have to track that down. I'll be watching that. And so join us next time. We'll be talking about Chronicle. Until then, head on over to our Facebook group, facebook.com, Superhero Cinephiles. Find us on Twitter or Instagram, Super Cinema Pod on both. And head on over to the website, superherocinephiles.com. You can find links to all the podcast providers there. Give us a review, toss us a few bucks through the PayPal donate button. Anything that helps us out around here.
You stingy bastards.
All right. Thanks so much for listening, and we will talk to you next week.
Yes, thank you again. Like I always say, Perry and I do not, take it for granted that you choose to spend valuable time out of your day listening to our podcast. It means a lot to us, and we hope that we were able to inform as well as entertain. Mm-hmm. Thank you. God bless and good night.
See you next time. Thanks for listening to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. If you have any questions or comments about this or any other episode, or if you have a superhero movie or TV show you'd like us to cover in a future episode, you can email us at superherocinephiles@gmail.com, or you can also visit us on the web at superherocinephiles.com. If you like what you hear, leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. Each review helps us reach more potential listeners. You can also support the show by renting or purchasing the movies discussed, or by picking up our books, all of which can be accessed through the website, as well as find links to our social media presences. The theme music for this show is a shortened version of Superhero Showdown, a royalty-free piece of music courtesy of BesleonStudios.com.